Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to learn how to make these weed cupcake toppers. So I've just got some fondant that I've coloured with a few different greens, so I think like ghoulish green and another one. I can't think of the name right now, but I'll put the link in the description box below. And we're just going to cut out some rough leaf shapes. Now it doesn't have to be too neat because we're going to cut them to size anyway. But gradually you want to get smaller and smaller. So as you're working your way around, you want one big leaf in the middle, and then either side you've got two leaves that are the same, and then you just gradually get a little bit smaller and smaller. The other green that I mixed it with was spruce green. I like to use the Sugar Flare gel colours to do that. And so it's just like a really dark green that I've got. So I haven't rolled my fondant too thin because obviously I want to be able to put this as a topper and it kind of hold itself up. You could do modelling paste if you wanted to. So here's the rough shape that we need. So I've got a flower pad and I'm just going to literally just thin out the edges a little bit. Not too much, we don't want it to curl or anything like that. We just want the edges to be a little bit thinner. We're going to do this for all of the petals. And then we're just going to mark in some leaf details. If you've got an impression mat or something like that, you could use that. So you want one line straight down the middle, and then we're just going to feather out from the centre to the edge, like that. And then we're going to re-go over so that we've got the lines coming from the middle of the leaf as well. So one thing that I didn't seem to film when I did this was to stick all the leaves together. I just used the same coloured green and just created a circle, and then I stuck the leaves onto that. And then for the eyes, I rolled 2 balls of white fondant, and then I rolled a circle of green fondant and flattened it, cut it in half, and just used that for the lids. So I'm just pulling the leaf in a little bit, just to give it a little bit more texture, like so. And we're going to do this for all of the leaves. So once you've done one, just pop it to one side, and then just work on another one. So just smoothing it out, flattening it with your finger just to get rid of that line that you will have created from the ball tool, because you don't want to be able to see that in the leaf. A line straight down the middle, and then coming in and then going out. Try not to press too hard with the modelling tool, because you don't want to go right through the fondant and then end up with a gap. And just place them together. They want to overlap slightly. So here's it when they're together. And I've just done that same patterning on that circle that's in the middle. Not too sure why that part didn't record, to be honest. So we're going to put the eyes in quite close together. And we want them so that the eyelids look like they're drooping down a little bit, because he's a bit tired. So some blacks in the eyes. This is just a circle that's been cut in half. We want that lid to look like it's coming over the centre of the eye. And then I've just got a little bit more of my green fondant. Again, roll in the circle. And we're just going to chop the bit out the middle. And this is what we're going to use for the bottom of the lid. So we want it to make it look like he's so stoned that he can't open his eyes. So we want it to just look really, really tired and high. So we're just going to pop that on to the bottom. You don't want too much of this part to be visible. but just enough that you can see that it's there. For the stalk, I've just rolled a bit of green fondant. I've made it flat at one side and pointy at the other, and then I've just cut it to size. We're going to do the same for the other lid. So just a little bit of green fondant. And they're really small, and I think it was really humid on this day, so it was quite sticky as well. It kept sticking to my fingers. So we're just going to push that into place. Remember, you could use your Dresden tool at this time to make the eyes a little bit bigger, or to push pieces out of the way. I prefer to use that just to get it looking how I want it to. I've got some red colouring. Again, it's the Sugar Flare. I think it's blood. I think they've got like a blood red. And we're just going to roll the bottom of the lid. We want that to be red. And then we're just going to draw some like tiny little veins on. So just sort of like wiggling a really, really thin brush, wiggling the thin brush on the whites of the eyes, and making sure the top of the lid and the bottom of the lid is like a solid line of red. Like that. Try not to put too much water on your brush, because you don't want it to bleed when it goes onto the white. So then it becomes really difficult to get that off. So you just want to dip it in the water, wipe the excess off, and then literally just tiny little lines. So now we're just going to put the whites in the eyes. So these want to go down at the bottom. Just a tiny bit of water to stick those on, and then just pushing them into place with the Dresden tool, like that. We're going to roll a part for the mouth. So just some black fondant I'm using here. You can see I'm just frilling that area there so that it's not as noticeable. We're just going to roll a thin black sausage, and then just stick that on with a little bit of water. Putting a little bit of a half smile on his face. So now we're going to roll the joint, as we call it in the UK. And it's just sort of like again a sausage that's flatter at one side and wider than it is at the other. And then to give the effect of the ash and that it's smoking, I've got some black fondant and just a tiny little bit of red. And we're just going to pop the red onto the black. So just some tiny little blobs of red is what you want. And for a bit of texture, we're just going to do the same thing with the black. You don't have to be in nice neat shapes. They can be quite mismatched, because obviously if you look at the ash or the end of a cigarette or anything like that, it's all bumpy and lumpy and stuff like that. So we're just going to push that together into a rough circle and then stick that on the end of our spliff, messing it up a little bit with a ball tool. And it kind of gives it a look as if it's lit. A little dint in the lips, and then we're just going to stick that in with a little bit of water. You might need to leave it propped up against something if you've made it a little bit long and it just needs time to dry. But I found, because it's quite wide at the bottom anyway, it kind of stayed where I needed it to. I'm just going over the lines of the mouth, lifting it up a little bit. And there's our leaf. Next we're going to make the ashtray. So I've just got some grey fondant and I'm just rolling this into like a rough shape of a circle. And that's going to be the base. And then a bit of a grey sausage. And then it doesn't need to be too deep, this one, but we're just going to wrap that around the circle that we've already made. So we're just going to trim it along the top, making sure the bottom's smooth as well. Just taking off the excess, and then I've got one of the little the circle pushers, and I'm just going to take some of that out of the top, and this is just going to give us the section where we are going to sit our spliff. So just taking those half circles out. We're just going to wrap that around. Now the fondant should be thick enough to hold its own weight at this point. So you just prop it up and it should just stay where it is. Might need to leave it to dry for a couple of minutes just to firm up. And then we're just going to do the same as what we did for the mouth of the leaf. So this time, to make it a little bit quicker, for the end, I've just got some black fondant and I'm just going to stick some red dots on there, and then I'm just going to mush it all together. I thought this would just work a bit of a quicker way. Just making it a little bit messy and just sticking that on the end. Now for the ash, in the ashtray, I have literally just used some black dust. Just use quite a big brush just to pop it in to the bottom of the ashtray, and I've made a wedge of grey fondant that I'm just going to put underneath just to support. And so with the rainbow dust, I think it's called Black Magic, I'm just going to dip a brush in there and then just dab it around just where that is. So you can see there, just covering it in to make it look like it's got a bit of ash in there. So next I'm going to do an open spliff, so one that's been rolled. So you just want a strip of white fondant. You can just cut that into sort of like a rectangle shape, making sure the edges are quite neat and it's not too long. Remember, it's got to fit on a cupcake. A really light line in the middle. And then with another little bit of fondant, we're just going to roll this up, and that's going to go in one end of this spliff that we're making. So in the UK we call that a roach, but you could call it a filter or whatever it is that you guys call it. A little bit of water to stick it down, and then I've just had some green fondant that's just been lying about while I've been making the rest, and the bits that are now like a little bit dry, we're just going to pull those off, and that's just going to give the effect of the weed, marijuana, or whatever you want to call it, just in the Rizzler that we've just made. So again, these don't need to be very neat. It can all just be in different random shapes because that's how it would be. And then just a little bit of water in there, and we're just going to pop that in, sprinkle it in. Now if you wanted to, you could do something similar with brown and put that in at the same time. It depends, I guess, on who you're making it for and how they usually have theirs. So next we're going to go on to make the Rizzler packet. So I wasn't aware of this brand before I made this, but I had to Google the packaging. So we're going to cut out a rectangle shape, and then you could use an edible image if you wanted, but this one I hand painted. So I just did the outline of the word raw, which is what the Rizzlers are called first, just to kind of get the placement right, and then I just went over it to make it a little bit thicker, just deciding where it needed to go. And again, I'm just using a tiny little bit of water on my brush when I'm doing this, because I don't want the colour to bleed or to be quite thin. I want it to be quite a deep red. And I'm just building up the layers just to make it a little bit thicker. And I just think this is the easiest way to do it, rather than to draw out an outline that you could make a mistake in. So it was quite a simple design to do. And for the other cupcakes on there, I just did them with the name and the age on. If any of you guys are interested in seeing me live, I have a Facebook group which is called Cake Nation Academy. It's open to everybody, but I've started doing lives in there of cakes that I'm making this, that week and stuff like that. Some of the figures again are already in my tutorials. But some people have just commented that it's nice to see me do kind of like a tutorial, I guess a tutorial in like a normal speed. So yeah, that's over on Facebook, Cake Nation Academy. I'm also starting to put together some online classes, which will all be held via Facebook on the group option. It'd be a private group. So I have got a figure that's, I think it's booked in for the 26th of November on how to make a little girl. So if you head over to my Facebook page or my Facebook group, or even Instagram, you'll be able to see that class advertised there. So I'm just painting on the other details of the packaging. Again, the writing is very, very small, so just a little bit of colour on my brush at the same time. And then the word classic at the top is kind of outlined, so that's what I'm just doing now. I think I already mentioned you could print off an edible topper for this one if you wanted to. I just wanted to have a go at hand painting the logo. If you guys would like to see any specific tutorials, feel free to just comment down below with a request. I can quite easily put that on the list if you wanted. So these Rizzlers, I think, are actually wrapped with a piece of string or something like that. So I've just rolled some white fondant quite thin, and we're just going to pop this across the wrapper. So instead of wrapping it around the full package, I've just done it in a crisscross design. So one down from the top to the bottom and then one left to right. Shouldn't need any water to stick this down because the lettering should still be a little bit damp from the paint. Just having it over like that. And I've done a little bit of a bow that I'm just going to, a little bit of a cross. I'm just going to pop across the middle. So here's the finished cupcakes. I hope you've liked today's video. If you have, please give a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, please click the links on the screen now. Thanks for watching.